Hi, friends. Hi, welcome back to the Honor with Heather podcast. I have missed you so much. If you've been wondering where I've been in the last few weeks, I'm going to share that with you on today's episode. I had planned on taking a week off just to enjoy Stampede and kind of reset. We've got a lot of great momentum with the podcast. And that turned into more than a month off. So today's episode is going to be a little personal, a little raw, and I am only really going to be sharing this on my podcast episode. So you're going to want to make sure you listen all the way to the end. I'm going to share what happened, why I took a little bit of time off. I think that part of having a platform like this is that when I go through something hard, I know there's someone else out there who has gone through something similar. And in this case, I know there is not a lot of exceptions to that. There's a lot of people who've been affected by what happened with me. So I'm going to share that with you on today's episode. Come along. Okay, so if you're wondering where I have been, the truth is I took a few weeks off actually because I had an emergency ovarian cyst removed. So this happened out of nowhere. I had no warning, no time to plan. One day I was working, we were going to Stampede, we took our salon team out, and the next day I was in excruciating pain and I had been admitted into the ER and then onto surgery. I'm definitely okay now, I'm fully recovered, but I'm very grateful. It was definitely an experience that changed me, rocked me, and honestly left me a little traumatized for a few weeks, hence why I took a break from podcasting. I think as women, we're trained to be more resilient to pain. A lot of the times if we have our period, we're just working through those cramps, working through the pain, working through the emotions. And sometimes it's oh, you're just being dramatic. I really think that we need to talk about that more to kind of try to erase that stigma. I once read this thing. I was doing some copywriting and this was for a clinic, but this was a few years ago. And it said pain is kind of the body's way of saying stop, pay attention to me, there's something going on here. I think that we're very quick to kind of tune that down as fast as we can. Let me tell you that the kind of pain that I was experiencing from having this ovarian cyst, what had happened is it had moved. It was excruciating. I was so in so much pain, constant pain, it didn't really come in waves like a hangover or anything like that, as well as throwing up, nauseous, dizzy. And there really was nothing I could do. My body was screaming at me and I had to kind of listen and surrender to that. It really got me to thinking that I think it's time we stop wearing burnout as a badge of honor. Time to stop pretending that pushing through is power or that doing more is the only way. I think it's better to pay attention to what's going on in our bodies, rest when we need to. And of course, I think as a service provider, as a salon owner, but even just as a human being, resting and paying attention to the body, it's what comes first, I think there's a lot of power in that surrender and knowing that we have to take care of ourselves. Following having my surgery, so I was in the hospital for a week and then I had about a week and a half of recovery and then kind of slowly worked my way back into work. And then now I'm back to doing my podcast and I'm really back in my normal routine and rhythm. But this wasn't just about the cyst, it's about women's health and how it's still misunderstood and often overlooked. And I was so surprised when I started talking to other women, when I started talking to my clients, my colleagues, friends of mine, just how many of these ovarian cysts, uterine cysts, and just in general weird women's health issues and how common they are. And also how it's kind of overlooked too. It was a fluke that we ended up finding mine. I had some pain and went in and that's how we figured it out. But essentially this thing had been in my body for perhaps many years and I had no idea. And it's crazy to me because I think we often think oh, I don't really necessarily need to go for that checkup once a year because I feel pretty healthy, I have a good diet, I maintain good exercise. And it's just wild to me just how absolutely common this is. And so I really wanted to make an episode about it and lead with this episode, because the thing is like I had already planned out a bunch of episodes and I wanted to just resume and keep going. But for me, I couldn't do that until I had this episode and we had this conversation. We need to have more conversations about women's health. We need to normalize talking about our bodies, pain, our cycles, hormones, without shame, because I think the more that we stay silent, the more that like these things happen and you don't feel like you're in a community, you feel like you're alone, and I think that's a dangerous place to be. So I really want to say this to women who are in the beauty industry, who are small business owners, service providers, because these are the kind of women that everybody else looks up to. Everybody else like looks to you for style guidance, or, they can't wait to share their stories with you or their life with you. And you're kind of a person that holds everybody up, but you have to make sure you're holding yourself up too, right? You don't need to hit a breaking point before you give yourself care. And I think that like we just see this so much, is that we're just not caring for ourselves enough. So if you have listened all the way to the end of this episode, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. In the wake of like having this health emergency, having a surgery that I didn't plan for, and just kind of working through some of that, like honestly, like trauma, like I am going to be slowing down on podcasting a little bit. I love the podcast. I love like how I can connect with you. I love the opportunity to be creative, but there just are a lot of things that are demanding my attention at the moment, especially like with running a salon and running the business. So what you're going to see going forward here is I have a few podcasts that I had previously recorded before I had surgery, and I really do want to release them. I've got some really amazing guests that like deserve to be heard and deserve to have their space. But then I think what we're going to do is we're going to kind of close on season 1, and we will be back in the new year. So that's kind of where I've been. I'm really focusing on healing, processing, resetting. I'm still recovering, but I need to be very aware of my health and my wellness and making sure that I don't burn myself out. So, if you've been putting something off, if you've been feeling some pain, or if you have something, please check in with yourself, make a doctor's appointment, ask questions. I think in today's day and age, in terms of healthcare, like you really are your own best advocate. So making sure that you are asking the questions that you need, and don't be afraid to push if you feel like you're not getting the answers. Our bodies are not the enemy. I think we're needing to be more in tune and to help ourselves. So thank you so much for holding space today. I've got, like I said, some beautiful episodes lined up, and I just knew this one had to come first before we resumed. Take care of yourselves. Keep in touch, please. You can find me at Honor with Heather on Instagram. Yeah, we'll see you next week for another episode.